The gunshot still echoed in Amara's ears as she pressed her trembling hands against Min Jun's chest. Blood seeped through her fingers, warm and terrifying. His face had gone pale, lips barely moving as he tried to speak. "Don't you dare!" she hissed, her voice breaking. "Don't you dare die on me now." Around them, 5 armed men formed a tight circle, their weapons trained on her. At the center of it all stood Grandfather Beck, his weathered face carved from stone, eyes cold as winter in Seoul. He took a single step forward, the click of his expensive leather shoes impossibly loud in the cavernous penthouse. "Step away from him, girl," the old man said, his voice carrying the weight of decades ruling Seoul's underworld. "This is family business. You're just a contract wife." Amara's hand shot out, grabbing the gun that had fallen beside Min Jun. She raised it with both hands, the way she'd seen in movies, hoping no one could see how badly she was shaking. The metal felt impossibly heavy. "I'm not moving." Her voice came out stronger than she felt. "And I'm not that girl anymore." Grandfather Beck's eyes narrowed. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then his lips curved into something that might have been a smile or a threat. "Then who are you?" "Welcome to African Korean Story Hub Besties. Kindly show encouragement by hitting the like and subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me." 6 months earlier, Amara Okafor had been someone completely different. Someone who believed the world made sense. That hard work paid off. That family was everything and nothing could touch them across the ocean. She'd been wrong about all of it. The phone call came at 2 in the morning Seoul time. Amara had been bent over her medical textbooks in her tiny studio apartment, the kind of place where you could touch 3 walls without fully extending your arms. Her phone lit up with Chitty's face, her baby brother's smile frozen in a photo from 2 years ago, before everything got complicated. "Chitty? It's the middle of the night here. What's wrong?" The sound that came through made her stomach drop. Chitty was crying. Her brother, who'd laughed at her wedding when she was 10, who'd carried her on his shoulders through Lagos markets, who'd promised to build an empire that would make their parents proud, was sobbing. "Amara, I messed up. I messed up so bad." She was on her feet before she knew it, pacing the 3 steps of her apartment aloud. "What happened? Are you hurt? Is it Mama?" "Mama's fine. Everyone's fine. Except me. I'm dead. Amara, I'm dead, and I just don't know it yet." The story came out in broken pieces. Chitty's business partner, the one he'd trusted with everything, had vanished, disappeared with $500,000 of investor money. Money that wasn't from investors at all, but from loan sharks. Money that Chitty's name was attached to, that Chitty had guaranteed. "They're giving me 72 hours, Chitty whispered. 3 days to pay back $500,000, or they'll kill me. They came to the house today. Amara, they show me pictures of what they do to people who don't pay." Amara's hand gripped the phone, so hard her knuckles went white. "Call the police. Right now." "The police?" Chitty laughed, a broken sound. "These people own the police. I asked around. The loan came from some company in Seoul. Beck International Holdings. Nobody here will touch anything connected to that name. So..." Amara's mind raced. "That's here. The money came from here. Yeah. Apparently they have operations in Lagos now. Amara, I don't know what to do. I can't ask Mama for this. It would kill her, and I can't run. They said they'd go after the family if I run." After they hung up, Amara sat in the dark for 3 hours. She had exactly $3,147 in her bank account. 2 years of savings from working double shifts at the restaurant, from tutoring Korean students in English, from every extra hour she could squeeze from the day. It might as well have been $3 for all the good it would do. As dawn broke over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that seemed obscene given the circumstances, Amara made a decision. If the debt came from Seoul, then Seoul would solve it, one way or another. Finding information about the Beck family turned out to be surprisingly easy, not because they advertised their criminal empire, but because in Seoul's whispered conversations, in the careful way people spoke certain names, the truth was obvious. Beck International Holdings owned 43 legitimate businesses spanning real estate, entertainment, and import-export. They also, according to her co-worker Jean Young, owned half the underground gambling dens, most of protection rackets in Gangnam, and had their fingers in everything from art theft to political corruption. Why are you asking about the Becks? Jean Young had grabbed her arm in the restaurant's kitchen, his face pale. Amara, whatever you're thinking, stop. People who ask too many questions about that family disappear. I'm not asking questions, Amara said quietly. I'm looking for answers. She found Baek Min-jun at Club Meridian on a Thursday night. Getting past the door had cost her $200 she couldn't afford. An address she definitely couldn't afford. Borrowed from a friend who thought she'd lost her mind. The bouncer had looked her up and down with barely concealed skepticism before the cash made her acceptable enough. Inside, the club pulsed with bass that rattled her ribcage. Beautiful people in clothes that cost more than her rent moved like liquid through spaces divided by invisible class lines. Amara had never felt more out of place in her life, but she pushed forward, following the pointing fingers and knowing glances toward the VIP section on the second level. More bouncers. More money. Finally, she stood at the entrance to a private room where soft light spilled out and she could see figures moving inside. A man in a black suit materialized beside her. Lost, miss? I need to see Baek Min-jun. The man's expression didn't change. Mr. Beck doesn't see walk-ins. Tell him it's about a debt. Amara met his eyes. Tell him Chitty Okafor's sister is here. He'll know the name. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the man spoke quietly into an earpiece she hadn't noticed. 30 seconds later, he stepped aside. The private room was smaller than she'd expected. Leather couches arranged around a low table, bottles of liquor she couldn't name, and 4 men in expensive suits. 3 of them looked like they could break her in half without wrinkling their clothes. The 4th sat in the center, and Amara knew immediately this was him. Baek Min-jun was younger than she'd expected, maybe 32, with the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers if magazine covers featured beautiful predators. His suit probably cost more than her entire year's tuition. He held a glass of whiskey and watched her approach with eyes that gave away absolutely nothing. You have 60 seconds, he said in perfect English, his voice smooth and cold. Make them count. Amara's heart hammered against her ribs, but she forced herself to stand straight, to meet those calculating eyes without flinching. She'd come too far to break now. My brother owes you $500,000. Money he doesn't have because his partner disappeared with it. You're going to kill him in 3 days unless someone pays. Min-jun took a slow sip of his whiskey. Your 60 seconds are ticking. I can't pay the money, but I can offer you something else. 2 years of my life. My time, my skills, my complete loyalty to whatever you need. Medical knowledge, language skills. I speak 4 languages fluently. Whatever you want for 2 years, and then my brother's debt disappears. One of the men behind Min-jun laughed, a sharp bark of disbelief. Min-jun raised one hand slightly, and the room fell silent again. You think you're the first desperate person to walk in here and offer me their life? Min-jun set his glass down with careful precision. I could have you disappear for the audacity alone, but you won't. Amara took a step closer, and every man in the room tensed. Because you're curious. Because someone who walks into a lion's den offering themselves as bait is either stupid or knows something you don't. And I don't think you think I'm stupid. For the first time, something flickered in Min-jun's expression. Not quite interest, not quite amusement. Sit. Amara sat on the edge of the couch opposite him, her borrowed dress riding up slightly. She tugged it down, trying to maintain some dignity. Tell me, Miss Okafor, what makes you think you have anything I want? I don't know what you want, Amara admitted, but I know what you need. Everyone needs something. And I'm betting that whatever it is, having someone completely in your debt for 2 years, someone with legitimate credentials and no connections to your world, might be useful. Min-jun studied her for a long moment. Then he leaned back, and something in his posture changed. A decision made. I have a problem, he said finally. My grandfather, who controls this family, has given me an ultimatum. Marry within a year and produce an heir, or lose my position as successor. He believes marriage will make me more stable, more committed to the family's future. Amara's mind raced ahead, seeing where this would go before he finished. I have no interest in love or romance. I have even less interest in the social climbing women who throw themselves at this family for money and status. But I need a wife, and I need one who understands that this is purely business." He paused. "You need money. I need a wife. We both get what we want. You want me to marry you?" The words felt surreal in her mouth. "For 2 years, you'll live in my home, attend family functions, play the role of devoted wife in public. In private, you stay out of my business, ask no questions, and maintain the facade. At the end of 2 years, we divorce quietly. You walk away with enough money to start whatever life you want, and your brother's debt is erased immediately. What's the catch?" Min Jun's lips curved slightly. "The catch is that you'll be married to me. You'll be entering a world that destroys most people who touch it. You'll have no privacy, no freedom. And if you betray me even once, the consequences won't just fall on you." Amara thought of Chitty, of her mother back in Lagos who didn't even know her son was marked for death, of the $3,000 in her account that might as well be monopoly money. "Do I get this in writing?" "A contract will be drawn up. My lawyer is very thorough. And if I say no, then you walk out of here, and whatever happens to your brother happens. I don't make the same offer twice." The room felt like it was shrinking. Amara could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the weight of the choice pressing down on her shoulders like physical force. 2 years of her life for Chitty's survival. 2 years married to a man whose eyes held no warmth, who spoke of marriage like a business merger, who controlled an empire built on things she didn't want to imagine. "I have conditions," she heard herself say. Min Jun raised an eyebrow. "You're in no position to negotiate. Then you're in no position to have a wife who looks miserable at every public appearance. I have conditions, and they're reasonable. First, I finish my medical degree. Online if necessary, but I finish it. Second, I have access to money for my personal needs, nothing extravagant, but I won't be completely dependent. Third, my family doesn't know the truth about this arrangement. As far as they're concerned, we're actually married. Is that all? One more thing. You don't touch me. This is business, like you said. That means separate bedrooms, no expectations of physical intimacy." Something flickered across Min Jun's face too quickly to read. "Agreed. My lawyer will add all of that to the contract. You'll have it tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" "Chitty has 3 days. The debt is frozen as of this moment. Consider it a good faith gesture." Min Jun stood, and Amara realized the meeting was over. "My driver will take you home. Tomorrow at 6 p.m., return here. Bring nothing you're not willing to leave behind. Everything you need will be provided." Amara stood on shaking legs. "Just like that." "Just like that, Miss Okafor. Welcome to the family." The next 24 hours passed in a blur of surreal moments. Amara called Chitty and lied through her teeth, told him she found an investor, that everything was handled, that he was safe. His grateful tears made her stomach twist. She called her mother and lied again, said she'd met someone, that it was serious, that she might be getting married soon. Her mother's joy was worse than Chitty's tears. She didn't tell anyone the truth. Not Jean Young at the restaurant. Not her classmates. Not her roommate who asked why she was packing her entire life into 2 suitcases with shaking hands. At 6 p.m., Min Jun's driver appeared in a black Mercedes that looked like it cost more than her entire apartment building. The man didn't speak, just loaded her suitcases and held the door. Amara took one last look at the tiny studio that had been her home for 3 years, then stepped in the car and watched her old life disappear through tinted windows. Club Meridian looked different in daylight, closed and ordinary, but the driver didn't stop there. They wound through Seoul streets, climbing higher into the hills where the buildings grew more expensive and the walls grew taller. Finally, they pulled up to a gate that looked like it belonged to a fortress. It swung open silently. The penthouse wasn't a penthouse. It was the entire top floor of a building that probably housed more square footage than her entire neighborhood back home. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of Seoul that took her breath away. Everything was white and chrome and glass, beautiful and cold and utterly impersonal. Min Jun stood by those windows, backlit by the setting sun, still wearing a suit that probably cost a fortune. He didn't turn when she entered. "Your room is the second door on the left. My lawyer is in the study with the contract. Read every word." Sign nothing until you're satisfied you understand what you're agreeing to. Where's your room? The question came out before Amara could stop it. Now he turned, and his eyes were unreadable. The master suite, at the opposite end of the apartment. You'll never have reason to go near it. The lawyer was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and sharper suits. She walked Amara through 47 pages of legal language that boiled down to everything Min-Jun had promised and more. The contract was airtight. 2 years, specific duties, specific compensations, specific consequences for breach. This clause here, the lawyer tapped a paragraph. It states that any public scandal or exposure of the family's private business will result in immediate termination of the contract and forfeiture of all benefits. Do you understand what that means? It means I keep my mouth shut about whatever I see or hear. It means more than that. It means if you're questioned by authorities, if you're approached by reporters, if anyone tries to use you to get to this family, you protect them first, even at cost to yourself. Amara met the woman's eyes. And if I don't agree to that clause, then there's no contract. There's no marriage. There's no deal. The lawyer's expression softened slightly. I've worked for this family for 20 years. I've seen a lot of people sit where you're sitting. Most of them don't last 6 months. The ones who do are the ones who understand what they're really signing up for. And what am I signing up for? A gilded cage. Beautiful, comfortable, and absolutely inescapable until the lock opens. Amara thought of Chitty. She picked up the pen. Where do I sign? The wedding happened 3 days later in a private room at a courthouse, witnessed by Min-Jun's lawyer and a man Amara didn't recognize. There was no white dress, no flowers, no music, just signatures on paper and a gold band that Min-Jun slipped on her finger without ceremony. It felt heavy, like a shackle disguised as jewelry. Congratulations, the lawyer said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You're now Mrs. Beck. Mrs. Beck. The name felt foreign in Amara's mouth, like speaking a language she'd never learned. Min-Jun said nothing, just signed the final documents and walked out, already on his phone, discussing business in rapid Korean she couldn't follow. Life in the penthouse fell into a strange rhythm. Min-Jun left early and returned late, sometimes not at all. When their paths crossed, he was polite, distant, treating her like a house guest he'd forgotten was staying. Amara spent her days studying for her medical finals online, exploring the vast apartment, and learning to navigate a world that felt increasingly unreal. The silence was the worst part. The penthouse was too big, too quiet, filled with expensive things but empty of life. Sometimes Amara would stand at those floor-to-ceiling windows and watch Seoul sparkle below, feeling like she was trapped in a snow globe, separate from the real world. On day 12, Min-Jun appeared at breakfast. Amara had been eating alone at the enormous dining table, as usual, when he walked in wearing a suit that probably cost more than her education. We have dinner with my grandfather tonight, he said without preamble. 7 o'clock. Dress formally. Conservative. My stylist left appropriate options in your closet. Amara set down her coffee. Your stylist has been in my room? Your room is my room. This is my home. Get used to it. His tone was matter-of-fact, not cruel, which somehow made it worse. Tonight is important. My grandfather will test you. He'll try to make you uncomfortable, to see if you break. Don't. What kind of test? Min-Jun's eyes met hers for the first time in days. He'll insult you, question your worth, treat you like you're beneath us. If you react emotionally, if you show weakness, he'll see you as a liability. And liabilities don't last long in this family. So I'm supposed to just sit there and take it? You're supposed to be smart enough to survive. He checked his watch. The car leaves at 6:30. Don't be late. He was gone before Amara could respond, leaving her alone with cold coffee and rising dread. The stylist had indeed left options. 6 dresses, all designer, all conservative, all in shades of black, navy, and deep burgundy. Amara chose a midnight blue dress that covered her shoulders and fell below her knee, paired it with simple jewelry. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. She looked expensive. She looked like she belonged in Min-Jun's world. The reflection felt like a lie. Grandfather Beck's estate made Min-Jun's penthouse look modest. The car wound through gardens that belonged in palace grounds before stopping in front of a traditional Korean hanok that had been expanded and modernized into something that straddled centuries. Men in suits lined the entrance, their eyes tracking Amara's every movement. Min-jun materialized beside her, his hand suddenly on her lower back. The touch was shocking after days of distance. Stay close. Don't speak unless spoken to. And remember, you're my wife. Act like it. The dining room could have seated 30, but held only 5. Grandfather Beck sat at the head of the table, a man in his 70s with silver hair and eyes that had seen everything and been impressed by nothing. 2 other men flanked him, one around Min-jun's age with a resemblance that marked him as family, the other older, wearing glasses and a careful expression of someone who dealt in secrets. So, Grandfather Beck said in English, surprisingly unaccented, "The contract wife appears." Min-jun's hand tightened on Amara's back, a warning. She kept her expression neutral. "Grandfather, this is Amara, my wife." "Your convenient solution, you mean?" The old man gestured to a chair. "Sit, girl. Let me look at what my grandson bought himself." Amara sat, feeling the weight of 4 pairs of eyes studying her. The younger man, Min-jun's cousin, she guessed, smirked openly. The one with glasses simply watched, calculating. "Nigerian, correct? How did you meet my grandson?" "I assume it wasn't at one of our usual social functions." "No, sir. We met through business." "Business." Grandfather Beck's laugh was sharp. "Yes, I suppose you could call it that. You needed money. My grandson needed a wife. Very efficient. Very modern. Tell me, what does your family think of this arrangement?" "They think we're in love." The words came out steadier than Amara felt. "And are you?" "In love with my grandson." Every instinct screamed at Amara to look at Min-jun, to seek some guidance, but she kept her eyes on the old man. "I respect your grandson, sir. Love is something that grows over time." Diplomatic. Grandfather Beck sipped his wine. "But you didn't answer the question. Do you love him?" The room held its breath. Amara felt the trap closing, felt the weight of the test Min-jun had warned about. If she said yes, it was an obvious lie. If she said no, she made their marriage look like exactly what it was. "I love what we're building together," she said carefully. "I love the life we're creating. Whether that's the same as romantic love, I suppose we'll find out." Min-jun's cousin snorted. "At least she's honest." "Grandfather, you can't seriously accept this. She's not one of us. She doesn't understand our world, our traditions. She's a liability." "Taeyong has a point," the older man said quietly. "No disrespect intended, Mrs. Beck, but you are an unknown element. In our business, unknown elements are dangerous." Amara's hands clenched in her lap beneath the table. "With respect, sir, unknown doesn't mean dangerous. It means untested. And everyone in this room was unknown once." Bold words from someone who's been here less than 2 weeks. Taeyong said, "You think you understand us? You think you can just walk into this family and belong?" "I don't think I belong." Amara turned to face him directly. "I know I don't. I'm not trying to belong. I'm trying to honor my commitment to your cousin, to this family, and to build something worthwhile with the opportunity I've been given. Whether that's good enough for you isn't really my concern." The silence that followed was deafening. Grandfather Beck's expression hadn't changed, but something flickered in his eyes. Then, impossibly, he laughed. "She has spine, Min-jun. I'll give you that. Most girls will be crying by now." "Most girls aren't Amara," Min-jun said quietly, and there was something in his voice that made her look at him. His expression was still neutral, but his eyes held a hint of approval. The dinner that followed was an exercise in endurance. Course after course of exquisite food that Amara could barely taste. Conversation in Korean that she couldn't follow. Pointed questions in English designed to make her stumble. But she'd survived worse. She'd survived leaving home at 22 with nothing but dreams. Survived 3 years in a foreign country where she'd never quite fit. Survived the desperate bargain that had brought her here. She could survive one dinner. Finally, as they stood to leave, Grandfather Beck addressed her directly. "You'll do, for now. But understand this, girl. You are on probation. One mistake, one scandal, one moment that damages this family's reputation, and you're gone. Contract or no contract? Am I clear? Crystal clear, sir. In the car ride home, Min Jun stared out the window, his jaw tight. Amara sat in silence, exhaustion creeping through her bones. Only when they were back in the elevator, rising toward the penthouse, did he speak. You did well. Did I? Amara leaned against the elevator wall. I feel like I barely survived. That's all anyone can do with my grandfather. Survive and hope he doesn't decide you're disposable. The elevator doors opened. Min Jun stepped out, then paused. Your answer earlier, about what you love, that was smart. It was honest. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and for a moment his mask slipped. She saw exhaustion that matched her own, saw the weight he carried, saw something almost human beneath the ice. Then it was gone. Good night, Amara. Good night, Min Jun. The days blurred together. More dinners, more tests, more performances. Amara learned to smile through insults, to navigate conversations in 3 languages, to read the subtle power dynamics of family built on violence and control. She learned which topics were safe, which questions would get her frozen out, which people to trust and which to avoid. She also learned about Min Jun through observation. He worked 18-hour days. He drank expensive whiskey, but never got drunk. He took calls at 3 in the morning in languages she didn't speak. Sometimes she'd wake to hear him pacing his room on the other end of the apartment, and she wondered what kept a man like him awake at night. They barely spoke, passing in hallways, brief exchanges about schedules, curt reminders about upcoming obligations. It was a marriage of proximity without intimacy, of shared space but separate lives. Amara told herself this was what she'd signed up for, that this was fine, that 2 years would pass quickly. She was lying to herself, and she knew it. 3 months in, on a Tuesday that started like any other, everything changed. Amara was studying in what she claimed as her office, a smaller room with a view of the city, when she heard the front door crash open. Voices, urgent and panicked, speaking rapid Korean. She stood, her heart racing, and moved toward the commotion. Min Jun stumbled to the door supported by 2 of his men, his white shirt soaked with blood. His face was gray, his breathing shallow. One of the men was on the phone, shouting coordinates, while the other tried to apply pressure to wounds Amara couldn't see. What happened? She was moving before she thought, her medical training overriding everything else. Mrs. Beck, please go back to your room, one of the men said in broken English. I'm a doctor. Let me see him. We have a doctor coming. He'll bleed out before your doctor gets here. Move. The authority in her voice surprised even her. The men hesitated, then stepped aside. Min Jun's eyes found hers, unfocused and struggling. Amara, go. You don't need to see this. Shut up and let me work. She was already pulling his jacket off, assessing the damage. 2 gunshot wounds, one in the shoulder, one in his side. The shoulder was through and through, clean. The side was worse, blood pulsing with each heartbeat. Give me towels, clean ones, boil water. I need a first aid kit, the most comprehensive one you have. And I need strong alcohol, not for drinking, for sterilizing. Move now. The men scattered. Amara stripped Min Jun's shirt away, her hands steady despite the fear claw at her throat. She'd trained for this, had spent rotations in emergency rooms, but this was different. This was her husband, fake or not, bleeding on marble floors that probably cost more than most people's houses. You were supposed to stay away from my business, Min Jun said, his voice weak, attempting humor even now. Your business just crashed through the front door bleeding. We're past staying away. She pressed a throw pillow against his side, applying pressure. What happened? Ambush. Rival family. Thought we were meeting to negotiate territory. They had other plans. Your men. 3 dead. For injured. I got lucky. He coughed, and blood flecked his lips. This is not lucky. Lucky is not getting shot at all. The men returned with supplies. Amara worked with the efficiency born from countless training hours, cleaning wounds, assessing damage. The side wound had missed major organs by centimeters. Luck, he called it. It was luck measured in millimeters between life and death. You need a hospital, she said, threading a needle she'd sterilized over a flame. This wound needs proper surgery. No hospitals. They ask questions. Questions lead to police. Police lead to complications we don't need. Then you get me doing field surgery on your dining room table. Your choice. Min Jun's lips curved slightly. My dining room table it is. For the next 2 hours, Amara operated on her husband while his men stood guard and made phone calls in hushed voices. She'd never done anything like this outside a controlled environment. Never worked while adrenaline made her hands want to shake and her patient's life felt personal rather than professional. But she pushed through, extracting bullet fragments, stitching tissue, cleaning and bandaging. Finally, she sat back, her hands stained red, her borrowed medical supplies scattered across expensive furniture. Min Jun's breathing had steadied, his color slightly better. He'd passed out somewhere around the second hour, which was probably a mercy. He'll live, she told the men, but he needs rest, antibiotics, and monitoring for infection. No work for at least a week, preferably 2. And if he develops a fever, I don't care what he says, he goes to a real hospital. One of the men, the one who'd been on the phone earlier, bowed slightly. Thank you, Mrs. Beck. You saved his life. I did my job. Amara stood on shaking legs. Help me get him to his room. They carried Min Jun to the master suite, a room Amara had never seen. It was as impersonal as the rest of the apartment, all modern lines and neutral colors, dominated by a massive bed. They laid him there carefully, and Amara checked his vitals one more time before the men left. She should have left too, should have returned to her side of the apartment. Let him recover alone as their arrangement dictated. Instead, she sank into the chair beside his bed, suddenly too exhausted to move. Her dress was ruined, covered in his blood. Her hands were still shaking. The reality of what had happened, of how close she'd come to being a widow after 3 months of fake marriage, crashed over her. She was still sitting there when Min Jun's eyes opened hours later. The room was dark except for the city lights filtering through the windows. He turned his head slowly, taking in her presence with obvious surprise. You're still here. You scared me. The admission came out before Amara could stop it. I know this is just a contract. I know we're not really married in any way that matters. But when you came through that door covered in blood, I was terrified. Min Jun was quiet for a long moment. You could have let me die. The contract would have been void. Your brother would still be safe, and you'd be free of this arrangement. Is that what you think of me? That I'd let someone die to escape a 2-year commitment? I don't know what to think of you. His voice was rough with pain, and something else. You're not what I expected. You were supposed to be simple, grateful, easy to predict and control. Instead, you challenge my grandfather, you save my life, and you sit beside my bed when you have no reason to care. Amara met his eyes in the darkness. Maybe I'm more complicated than a contract clause. Maybe you are. He tried to shift and winced. How bad is it? Bad enough that you're not working for 2 weeks minimum. The shoulder wound was clean, but the side is going to hurt for a while. You need antibiotics and rest. I don't have time to rest. The families will see this as weakness. They'll move on our territory, test our defenses. Then let them. You're no good, anyone dead, Min Jun. And if your grandfather is as smart as he seems, he'll understand that recovering from an assassination attempt isn't weakness. It's survival. When did you become an expert on my world? The moment I walked into it. I've been watching, learning. Your world isn't that different from any other. It's about power and perception, about knowing when to show strength and when to show strategy. Right now, strategy means staying alive to fight another day. Min Jun's hand moved slightly, and Amara realized he was reaching for hers. She hesitated, then took it. His grip was weak but warm, real in a way nothing between them had been before. Thank you, he said quietly, for saving my life. You're welcome. Try not to need saving again. My heart can't take it. Something passed between them in that moment, something neither of them could name or wanted to acknowledge. The contract suddenly felt less like a shield and more like a complication. Amara pulled her hand back gently. I should let you rest. Call if you need anything. I'll be in my room. Amara, his voice stopped her at the door. Would you stay? Just tonight. I don't want to be alone. It wasn't a demand or an order. It was a request vulnerable and human, from a man who'd built his life on being neither. Amara looked back at him. This stranger she'd married, this man whose blood was still under her fingernails, and made a choice. Okay, just tonight. She pulled the chair closer to the bed, curled into it despite its discomfort, and watched his breathing slow as he drifted back to sleep. Somewhere around dawn, she followed him into unconsciousness, and when she woke, someone had draped a blanket over her. Min-jun was watching her, his expression unreadable. You didn't have to stay all night. You asked me to. I did. He seemed to be considering something. I'm not good at this, at having someone care, at being vulnerable with another person. My mother was the last person I trusted, and she died because of it. Amara straightened in the chair, working out the kinks in her neck. What happened to her? Min-jun's eyes went distant, looking at something only he could see. She tried to leave. My father was already dead, killed in a territory war when I was 10. My mother wanted to take me and disappear, start over somewhere the family couldn't reach us. But you don't leave this family. Grandfather had her killed, made it look like an accident. I was 16, old enough to understand exactly what happened and why. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me an important lesson. In this world, love is a weapon. Caring about someone gives others power over you. So I stopped caring. Stopped letting anyone close enough to matter. And it worked. For 16 years, it worked perfectly. Until you needed a wife. Until I needed a wife, he agreed, and got you instead of the docile, forgettable woman I planned for. Disappointed? Min-jun's eyes found hers. Terrified. The honesty of it hung between them. Amara understood what he was saying without him spelling it out. She was supposed to be part of his armor, another layer of protection between him and the world. Instead, she was becoming a crack in it, a vulnerability he hadn't anticipated. I should go clean up, she said, standing. You need real food and your antibiotics. I'll have them bring something. Amara, again, her name stopped her. Last night, when I thought I might not make it, I had this moment of regret, not for the life I've lived or the choices I've made, but that I brought you into this. That you might have watched me die and felt like you'd wasted these months on a lie. It's not a complete lie anymore, is it? No, Min-jun said softly. I don't think it is. The next 2 weeks reshaped everything. Amara stayed close, monitoring Min-jun's recovery, changing his bandages, making sure he actually followed her medical orders. They talked more in those 14 days than they had in the previous 3 months. About his childhood, about her family, about the dreams they'd both set aside to survive. Min-jun told her about learning the family business at his grandfather's knee, about his first kill at 17, about the careful balance of fear and respect that kept the empire running. Amara told him about medical school in Lagos, about the dream of opening a hospital in her hometown, about the guilt of leaving while her family struggled. Why medicine? Min-jun asked one evening as they sat in his room, the television playing some drama neither of them was really watching. Because I wanted to fix things. People, specifically. I grew up watching people die from preventable diseases, from lack of access to basic health care. I thought if I could become a doctor, I could make a difference. Save lives. She laughed bitterly. Ironic, isn't it? I'm married to someone whose business involves ending lives, not saving them. Min-jun was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing the edge of his bandage. My business is more complicated than that. Yes, there's violence. But we also provide protection, loans to people banks won't touch, opportunities in neighborhood society abandoned. It's not all death and destruction. You're justifying it. I'm explaining it. There's a difference. He shifted, wincing slightly. I'm not asking you to approve. Just understand that the world isn't as black and white as medical school might have taught you. Nothing about my life has been black and white since I walked into that club 3 months ago. Regret it? Amara considered the question honestly. 3 months ago, she had said yes without hesitation. But now, sitting in Min-jun's room while Seoul glittered outside, she wasn't sure anymore. Asked me when the 2 years are up. A week later, Min-jun was mobile again, insisting on returning to work despite Amara's protests. The night before his first day back, He found her in her office, surrounded by textbooks and medical journals. "I have something for you." He held out a folder. "Open it." Inside were property documents, photographs of a building in Lagos, modern, spacious, in a good neighborhood. Amara's hands trembled as she read through papers. "This is a hospital, a full medical facility. It's your hospital, or will be. I've purchased a building in your name. When our contract ends, you'll have the resources to staff it, equip it, and open it. Consider it payment for saving my life." Amara's throat tightened. "Min-June, this is too much. The contract already covers my compensation. The contract covers your time. This covers your dream. There's a difference." He moved to leave, then paused. "You could have let me die. Amara, you chose not to. That choice has value beyond money or contracts." After he left, Amara sat staring at the photographs, tears streaming down her face. For the first time since signing that contract, she felt like more than a transaction. She felt seen. But peace in Min-June's world never lasted long. The attack came on a Friday night, 6 weeks after Min-June's recovery. Amara was alone in the penthouse, working on an assignment, when she heard breaking glass from the living room. She froze, her heart hammering, as footsteps echoed through the apartment. 3 men appeared in her doorway, faces covered, guns drawn. One of them spoke in accented English. "Mrs. Beck, you're coming with us." "Who are you? What do you want?" "Your husband took something from our family. Now we're taking something from his." The man grabbed her arm, and Amara fought, landing a solid kick that made him curse. But 3 against 1 was impossible odds. They had her restrained in seconds, a cloth pressed over her face that smelled chemical and wrong. The world went fuzzy, then dark. Amara woke in a concrete room with no windows, her head pounding, her wrists zip-tied to a metal chair. Pain radiated through her shoulders. She had no idea how long she'd been unconscious or where she was. The door opened, and a man walked in. Older, 50s maybe, with cold eyes and expensive clothes that seemed wrong for a kidnapping. "Mrs. Beck, welcome. I apologize for the rough treatment, but your husband doesn't respond well to polite requests." "Who are you?" "My name is Park Jin-ho. Your husband and I have some unresolved business. He killed my brother 3 months ago during a territory dispute. Eye for an eye seems appropriate, wouldn't you say?" Amara's mind raced, trying to remember everything Min-June had told her about the rival families, the power structures, the unwritten rules. "Killing me won't bring your brother back." "No, but it will hurt Beck Min-June. And right now that's enough." Park circled her chair slowly. "Tell me, Mrs. Beck, what's it like being married to a monster? Does he tell you about the people he's killed? The families he's destroyed? He tells me what I need to know." How diplomatic. "But I wonder, do you know what he did to my brother? Do you know he tortured him for 3 days before finally putting a bullet in his head?" Amara's stomach turned, but she kept her expression neutral. "I know your brother tried to kill him first. Self-defense isn't murder." Park's hand cracked across her face, snapping her head to the side. Pain exploded through her cheek. "Don't offend him to me. You're just another pawn in his game, another piece he'll sacrifice when it's convenient." Blood filled Amara's mouth where her teeth had cut her cheek. She spit it out and met Park's eyes. "Then why take me? If I'm meaningless to him, I'm worthless to you." "Oh, you're not meaningless. I've been watching. I've seen how he looks at you. The way he changed the security protocols after you moved in. The hospital he bought you in Lagos. No, Mrs. Beck, you're not meaningless at all. You're his weakness. And weakness can be exploited." The next hours were a nightmare of waiting, of fear that turned her stomach to ice. Park left her alone, and the isolation was its own torture. Amara's mind spun through scenarios, each worse than the last. Would Min-June even try to rescue her? Would he consider her expendable, a complication better resolved by cutting losses? She thought about the past 4 months, about the man she'd slowly come to know beneath the cold exterior, the way he'd thanked her for saving his life, the hospital in Lagos, the nights they'd spent talking when he should have been resting. Those weren't the actions of someone who saw her as meaningless, but they also weren't love. And in Min-June's world, anything short of essential was disposable. The door burst open 12 hours later. Amara had dozed fitfully in the chair, her body screaming from the position, when gunfire erupted outside. Shouting in Korean, more gunfire, then silence. Min-jun appeared in the doorway, gun in hand, his face a mask of controlled fury. Behind him, bodies littered the hallway. He crossed to her in 3 strides, holstering his weapon and pulling a knife to cut her restraints. "Are you hurt?" His hands moved over her, checking for injuries, professional and efficient. "I'm okay. Bruised, scared, but okay." Her voice cracked. "You came." "Of course I came." He helped her stand, catching her when her leg buckled. "Can you walk?" "I think so." They moved through the building, Min-jun's men, clearing the way. Amara saw Park's body in a downstairs room, dead eyes staring at nothing. She should have felt something, horror or relief or vindication, but she was too numb, too exhausted. The drive back to the penthouse passed in silence. Min-jun held her hand the entire time, his thumb rubbing circles on her palm, a gesture so gentle it made her want to cry. Only when they were safely inside, doors locked and guards posted, did he finally speak. "Pack your things. I'm sending you back to Nigeria." Amara's head snapped up. "What?" "This is my fault. I brought you into this world, made you a target. Park was right. You're my weakness now, and in this business, weaknesses get people killed. You'll go home. The hospital will be yours. The contract is void. You're free. I don't want to be free." The word surprised them both. "Min-jun, I knew the risks. I chose to stay even after I understood what your world really was. You chose wrong. You're leaving. Tonight if possible. Tomorrow at the latest." "No." Amara stood her ground despite exhaustion making her sway. "You don't get to make that decision for me. I'm not a child or a possession. I'm your wife, fake or not, and I'm staying." "You're not staying. I won't watch you die because of me." "Then don't. Watch me live instead. Watch me choose this. Choose you. Choose to see this through to the end of our contract like we agreed." Min-jun's control cracked. "Damn the contract. You almost died today. Amara, they had you for 12 hours. Do you know what I did during those 12 hours? I tore apart half of Seoul looking for you. I killed 17 men. I tortured information out of people who would have told me anything to make it stop. And all I could think about was what they might be doing to you, how you might be suffering, because I was stupid enough to let you matter." The confession hung between them, raw and bleeding. Amara stepped closer, her hand finding his cheek. "I matter to you." "Yes." The word came out broken. "You matter. Against every bit of sense I have, against every lesson my life has taught me, you matter. And that terrifies me more than any rival family or business deal gone wrong. Because now they know. Now everyone knows that hurting you is the fastest way to hurt me. So we make me unhurtable. We make me essential not just to you but to the family, to the business. We make taking me so costly, so dangerous, that no one would dare try." Min-jun stared at her. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we stop pretending this is just a contract. I'm suggesting we become actual partners. I have skills, Min-jun medical knowledge, language abilities, and I've been learning your world. Let me help you legitimize parts of the business, medical supply chains, international partnerships through my connections in Africa. Make me valuable to the family in my own right, not just as your wife. That would mean fully entering this world. No more pretending you're separate from it. No more innocence. I lost my innocence the moment I signed that contract. I'm just finally admitting it." Min-jun pulled her close, and for the first time since they'd met, he kissed her. Not for show, not for an audience, but because neither of them could resist anymore. The kiss tasted like blood and desperation, and something that might have been hope. When they broke apart, Min-jun's forehead rested against hers. "This is a mistake." "Probably, but it's our mistake to make. The next family dinner is in 3 days. I'll propose your idea to my grandfather then. But Amara, if you do this, there's no going back. You'll be truly part of this family, with everything that means. The good and the terrible. I know. I'm ready." The 3 days before the family dinner felt like preparing for war. Min June spent hours coaching Amara on the family's business structure, the legitimate fronts and illegal operations underneath. She learned about the medical supply chains that move both legal pharmaceuticals and illegal substances, the import-export businesses that laundered money, the real estate holdings that provided clean income streams. My grandfather respects strength and innovation, Min June explained the night before the dinner. He'll test your proposal. Try to find weaknesses. You need to be bulletproof. I spent 12 hours tied to a chair thinking about this. Trust me, it's bulletproof. The dinner was at the family estate again, but this time Amara walked in differently. Not as the uncertain contract wife trying to survive, but as someone with purpose, with value to offer. Min June's hand rested on her back, a gesture of support rather than control. Grandfather Beck noticed immediately. His eyes tracked between them, seeing something that made his expression sharpen with interest. Taeyong was there too, his smirk more pronounced, clearly expecting entertainment at Amara's expense. Grandfather, Min June said once they were seated, Amara has a proposal for the family. I think you should hear it. The old man's eyebrows rose. The contract wife has ideas about our business? This should be interesting. Amara stood, refusing to be intimidated. Sir, recent events have made it clear that I'm now a target because of my connection to this family. Rather than being a liability, I propose becoming an asset. She laid out her plan with the precision of a medical diagnosis. Medical supply chains between Korea and West Africa, legitimate businesses that could expand the family's reach while cleaning their money. Her connections in Nigeria, her medical credentials that could open doors in pharmaceutical industries, her language skills that could facilitate negotiations in markets the family had never accessed. You want us to go legitimate? Taeyong laughed. That's your grand plan? To turn us into respectable businessmen. Not entirely legitimate. Amar corrected. Strategic legitimacy. Enough clean operations to provide cover and respectability. Enough illegal operations underneath to maintain profit margins and power. It's not revolutionary. It's evolution. Grandfather Beck leaned back, his fingers steepled. And what makes you think African markets are worth our investment? Because everyone else is looking at China, at Southeast Asia, at established markets. Africa is the frontier. Medical infrastructure is desperate for investment. Governments are eager for foreign partnerships. And the regulatory environment is flexible enough to allow creative business arrangements. You'd be establishing dominance in markets before anyone else realizes their value. She's been thinking about this, the older man with glasses said, his tone almost admiring. Detailed, strategic, and surprisingly ruthless. Using humanitarian need as cover for expansion. I'm using genuine humanitarian need to create genuine value, while also serving the family's interests, Amar corrected. There's no reason both can't be true. Grandfather Beck studied her for a long moment, then looked at Min June. You support this proposal? I do. Amara has proven herself. She saved my life. Survived a kidnapping, and instead of running, she's proposing ways to strengthen the family. She's earned a seat at this table. Has she now? The old man's smile was dangerous. Tell me, granddaughter-in-law, what happened during those 12 hours you were taken? The room went silent. Amara felt Min June tense beside her, but she kept her focus on Grandfather Beck. I was questioned about the family's operations. Park Jin-ho wanted information about Min June's businesses, his weaknesses, his plans. He thought fear and pain would make me talk. And did you? No, sir. Because despite this marriage starting as a contract, despite all the logical reasons I should have protected myself first, I couldn't betray Min June. I couldn't betray this family. Because somewhere along the way, it stopped being just business. Sentiment. Taeyong scoffed. That's not strength. That's weakness. Is it? Amara turned to him. Your cousin was shot twice, and I had the skill to save him. I was kidnapped, and I had the loyalty to protect family secrets. I'm proposing business expansion that could legitimize millions while opening new revenue streams. Tell me, cousin, what exactly have you contributed lately besides complaints? Taeyong's face flushed red. He started to stand, but Grandfather Beck's hand shot out, stopping him. Sit down, Taeyong. The old man's voice was steel. The girl is a point. and I find myself curious to see if she can deliver on these promises. He looked at Amara. You'll have 6 months. Establish initial contacts. Set up one operational supply chain, and show me concrete results. If you succeed, you'll have a permanent position in the family business. If you fail, you disappear. No second chances. No mercy. Clear. Crystal clear, sir. Good. Then welcome to the family. Truly this time. The drive home was quiet, both of them processing what had just happened. Only when they were back in the penthouse, safe behind locked doors, did Min June finally speak. You realize what you just committed to? 6 months to prove yourself or face permanent consequences. I realize. Amara kicked off the uncomfortable heels. I also realize I just went from contract wife to actual family member. That's what we wanted, isn't it? What I wanted was to keep you safe. Instead, you've put yourself in more danger than ever. Then I guess you'll have to help me succeed. She crossed him, taking his hands. Min June, I meant what I said in there. This stopped being just business for me. I don't know when exactly. Maybe when I was stitching you up. Maybe when you bought me a hospital. Maybe when you tore apart Soul to find me. But somewhere along the way, this became real. Min June pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her in a way that felt like coming home. I fell for you the night you sat beside my bed when you had every reason to leave. I've been fighting it ever since because falling for someone in my world is the most dangerous thing you can do. But I'm tired of fighting it. So stop fighting. He kissed her then, and this time there was no hesitation, no holding back. They stumbled toward his bedroom, shedding the expensive clothes and the careful facades, finding something real underneath all the contracts and complications. Later, tangled in expensive sheets with Soul's lights painting patterns on the walls, Amara traced the scars on Min June's chest. Tell me about this one. Knife fight when I was 19. Rival family member at a club. This one. Bullet graze. 22. Ambush that went wrong. You have so many. This is what my life has been. Violence and survival. He caught her hand, brought it to his lips. But you're teaching me it could be something else. What's that? Something worth protecting instead of just surviving. The next 6 months were the hardest of Amara's life. She worked 18-hour days establishing contacts in Lagos, navigating corrupt officials and suspicious business partners, building supply chains from nothing. Min June supported her, providing resources and connections, but the work was hers. The success or failure belonged to her alone. There were setbacks, a shipment seized by customs, a partner who turned out to be working for a rival family, a government official who demanded bribes that threatened to make the entire operation unprofitable. Each time, Amara found solutions, learned from mistakes, adapted, and overcame. Min June watched her transform from the desperate woman who'd walked into his club to a force of nature who commanded rooms full of dangerous men. She negotiated in 4 languages, understood the unspoken rules of his world, and somehow maintained her core of decency through it all. You're magnificent, he told her one night as they reviewed her progress reports. I'm exhausted. There's a difference. You're both. He closed the laptop, pulling her onto his lap. You know the 6 months are almost up. 3 weeks. I know. Are you ready? Amara thought about everything she'd built. The supply chains now moving millions in legitimate and illegitimate goods. The partnerships that gave the family a foothold in 3 African countries. The respect she'd earned from people who'd initially dismissed her. I'm ready. The final presentation happened at the family estate. The full council assembled. Amara stood at the head of the table, Min June beside her, and laid out 6 months of work. Spreadsheets, profit projections, established partnerships, future expansion plans. It was comprehensive, professional, and undeniably successful. Grandfather Beck reviewed everything in silence. The room held its breath. Finally, he looked up. Profitable, strategic, and ingenious. You've exceeded my expectations, girl. You're no longer the contract wife. You're family. Truly. Relief flooded through Amara, but she kept her expression neutral. Thank you, sir. I won't disappoint you. See that you don't. Now, there's one more matter to address. The old man's eyes gleamed. Your contract with Min June expires in 2 months. What are your intentions? Amara looked at Min-jun, saw her own feelings reflected in his eyes. I intend to renegotiate the terms. Oh, what terms did you have in mind? No end date, equal partnership in all things, and love as a foundation instead of business. Min-jun smiled, that rare genuine smile that transformed his face. I accept those terms. Then as the head of this family, I pronounce you actually married. About time. Grandfather Beck raised his glass. To the daughter-in-law who saved my grandson's life and our family's future. Welcome home, Amara. 1 year later, Amara stood in Lagos at the grand opening of Beck Okafor Medical Center. Chidi ran the Nigerian operations, fully legitimate now, his debt a distant memory. Min-jun's hand rested on her growing belly, their child already making its presence known. Regret anything? Min-jun asked as they watched hundreds of people tour the facility that will provide free and low-cost medical care to the community. Not a single thing. You! Only that I didn't fall for you sooner. Amara laughed. We fell exactly when we were supposed to. Any sooner, and we wouldn't have been ready. That night, she burned the original contract in their penthouse fireplace. Min-jun watched the pages curl and blacken, the words that bound them turning to ash. You know, he said softly, when I first drew up that contract, I thought I was buying a solution to a problem. Instead, I found everything I didn't know I needed, and I thought I was selling 2 years of my life to save my brother. Instead, I found a partnership, a purpose, and a love I never expected. The contract burned away, but what they'd built remained. Not a marriage of convenience, but a partnership of equals. Not a business arrangement, but a love story written in blood and loyalty, and the courage to choose each other every single day. Sometimes a contract we're forced into become the choices we willingly make. And sometimes the most dangerous deals lead to most extraordinary lives. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible tales of love, power, and transformation. Share your thoughts below. Would you have made the same choice as Amara? Let us know in the comments.